Hi crafters, it's Chloe from Chloe's Creative Cards, and today I've got a fabulous project that I'm going to show you how to create using our beautiful Christmas bouquet collection. Now this one is a little bit different because it's not maybe necessarily what you would kind of expect us to create with the Christmas bouquet, but this is one of Becca's lovely cards and I thought we should make this one on the YouTube channel to take you through step by step how to complete this fabulous project. Now, as always, everything that I'm using is listed and linked in the little description below. So please do have a little look in there and we will get started making the project. So all of the materials that I'm using are available from our website, which is www.chloescreativecards.co.uk. Okay then, I'm going to pop the overhead camera in and we will get started. So this is the project that we're going to be making. So it's really nice and glittery and sparkly. Absolutely gorgeous. So we'll pop that over to one side and I'm going to start off with a chisel tip glue pen and some glitter. So the glitter that I have got is Crystal Crush, which is a lovely kind of silvery glitter, really pretty, but it's got kind of that crystalline kind of effect to it, so it allows the colour to shine through from underneath. So we're going to be using an 8x8 card blank, and I've got my first matten layer already cut down, which is from our Christmas floral paper pad. So we've gone for this lovely design here, which has like the little trees on. So we're going to use our chisel tip glue pen and just drag that along the edge of the card, like this. Okay, and we're going to go along all four sides of this lovely piece of patterned paper here, like that. So we'll pop that one to one side. So that's cut down to about 7 3/4 inches square. I've then got another piece of crystal white, which is cut down to, let me grab my trimmer and I'll give it a little measure. So the crystal white has been cut down to 7 inches square. Okay, so it's got that slightly larger border going around the edge. So again, we're going to take our chisel tip glue pen. I'm going to drag along each edge of this piece of card and dunk that in our glitter. Now, of course, with our chisel tip glue pens, these are fantastic for doing your edging. But if you're doing edging like this, you do need to use your finer glitters, okay, rather than the chunkier ones. So we'll just work round, adding this onto there. Okay, and then I'm going to pop my lid on that glitter and pop that to one side for now. So we'll grab in our base card and I'm going to stick my blue layer down flat. So I'm just going to use a little bit of my PVA glue to do that. Oh, my little glue's dried up a little bit, I think, overnight there. Let me have a look. There we go. Okay, so we'll then stick that down nice and flat just onto our base card, like this. Okay, and then next up we'll take some foam pads and stick this white piece on. I've got some foam pads here, so just work round, adding those on. And you can see how the backs just ping off these. There we go. Okay, and then we'll bring this back in and that's going to get stuck down in the middle. Okay, I've then got a piece of just silver mirror card, which again we've just trimmed down to 6 3/4 inches, and we'll stick that one in the middle. So a few foam pads on the back of here, and again just peeling those backings away like that, and then we'll stick that down onto our card. Okay, So next up, I've got a piece of crystal white pearl card, and we've cut this down to 6.5 inches square. And I'm going to take my little anti-static bag, which I had out all prepared. Where have I popped it? There it is. So I've got my little anti-static bag here. So I'm going to give our card a little dust over with this. Okay, and then we're going to take one of the little branch stamps, and this is from the Christmas Builder Bouquet set. So using our Wow Clear Embossing ink pad, we're going to ink up that stamp, and I'm going to use some metallic silver sparkle on this one, which is one of the lovely Wow powders. So we're going to come across about halfway on the card, and we're just going to kind of build up these branches. So we want them kind of overlapping. We want it to look like this is growing. So we're just going to use our ink pad. So we're keeping re-inking that stamp and that clear embossing ink, and I just keep, you'll notice I keep kind of tilting back and forward just to look, to kind of see roughly where I've kind of stamped that. So it just depends how the light hits it. If I tilt it a little bit, I don't know whether you'll be able to see that on the cameras. I can definitely see it in here. It's very, very faint, like a little watermark. So we'll then take some scrap paper, and we're going to grab this in. I'm going to sprinkle over our metallic silver sparkle embossing powder. Okay, now I know I've got a few gaps there. We're not going to stress out about it. Okay, I'm going to show you what to do. So we're going to take our heat tool, and we're going to heat this up. Like that. Okay, then we'll just give that a little second to kind of cool off a little bit. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take our stamp, okay, which we've got in our acrylic block, and go back in. So anywhere where you've got a little gap, you can just go back in and fill in the gaps. Okay, and then we'll sprinkle over our embossing powder. And then heat this up again. There we go. So give that a couple of seconds just to cool off. And then I'm going to go in with my chisel tip glue pen. I'm going to just drag this along each edge and then dunk that into my glitter. We go. Okay, and then we're going to take some foam pads and pop those onto here. So I am making this quite dimensional, but again, you don't need to make it as dimensional. If you don't want to, you can make it a little bit flatter if this is a project that you would like to post. So we'll just peel the backs away there. And then we're going to bring in our base card. Position that down and press. So you can see how we've got the basis of our project made up. So what we are going to do next is I'm going to show you how to create these lovely flowers. So this is actually using some of the paper from the collection. So what I'm going to do, I'll just go and grab the blue paper that I need for this project. So just bear with me 2 seconds. Let me see if I can find the paper pad. Had everything all out in my little box ready to go. You always miss one thing. Right, there we go. I've got 2 paper pads here. So let's run back in. Okay, so the paper that we are actually using, I'm hoping that I have got a sheet left and I haven't used it all. Have a little look. So this is the lovely paper pad that we've taken the backing paper from. So it is the lovely Christmas Flowers and Foliage design. Okay. So the paper I've actually used is the one that we've used in the background. So we might have to use a different one because I think I've used it all from this particular pad. Okay, so we'll do it on a different colour because I can show you the whole conception then. I've got some that I've already pre-prepared. So we'll take this lovely green kind of wash paper. So the paper that we've used to create the flowers is basically this design, but in the blue. So what you're going to do is take your dies. So these are from your Christmas flower die set. Now what you can do if you want, and with paper I would maybe do 2 layers, is if you put your paper up like this, you can tape your die into place, a little bit of low tack tape, but you can cut through like 2 or 3 sheets at once, okay? So then it saves you a little bit of time when you're kind of die cutting these. So for this project, you are going to need 6 large and 5 of the smaller flower. Okay. So we're going to take our flowers and then we'll send that through the Gemini like this. And then we'll grab that at the other side. And then you can see we've got our little flowers perfectly die cut out. So I'll just do these 2 because like I say, I've got one that I've already pre-prepared just so it gave the glue time to dry. So what you can then do is you get a little stamp in the Christmas flower stamp and die set, and it's got the veins for the poinsettia. So give your little flowers a dust over. Well, the petals are leaves really, aren't they? Then you can ink up your stamp. So again, using that clear embossing ink pad. And then you can position this down into the middle and press. And you want firm, even pressure all over that image. And then we're going to take our metallic silver sparkle embossing powder. We're going to sprinkle that over the top. Tap away any excess. And what can sometimes happen is where your tape, where you've stuck your die down in place with your low tack tape, sometimes you can get a little bit of residue from that. So what I would do is just take a little dry paintbrush and just brush that away. And then you can go in with your heat tool and heat that up. Okay, so then we'll give this little flower a dust over again, re-ink this up, position it down, and because you can see through the stamp you can line it up and then lift off. And then we'll take our embossing powder again going to sprinkle that over the top and tap away any excess. And then we will take our heat tool and just heat this up like that. Okay, and then we're going to take our dry clear glue, and again you can go in with your glitter, so you can use either Crystal Crush or Glass Slipper, would work really nicely for this, and you can just scribble in between those veins. Okay, then you can take your glitter, sprinkle this over the top, and once that's dry you will get the colour shining through from underneath. Okay, so this is what they look like while they're wet, and then when they're dry they will look like this here. Okay, so what we're going to start and do now is build up these flowers. So I've got 3 of the larger and 1 of the small, which I'm going to pop in the middle, and then 3 of the smaller, which we're going to build up together. So literally all you're going to do is pinch like this down the centre of the petals, or leaves technically if this is a poinsettia. So we'll just pinch down the middle like this, and do that on the smaller one as well. And then we're going to pop a blob of PVA glue just into the centre, and we will just start to layer this up. Okay, so then we're going to stick this down like that. Pop that to one side. And then we'll do the same with this smaller one as well. So we're just going to work round, pinching those petals together like this. Okay. Like that. Pop that to one side, and then I'm going to grab some of our little sparklers in. Okay, now I want to show you how you can colour these. So what you can do is, if you've got, say, a Copic marker or any alcohol marker really, you can take your pens and colour these in to match your project. Now I've got one that's already been coloured, and I think it's been done with that pen there. So what we can do is, I like to stick them onto a glue dot as I colour them in, because I find it just holds them in place and makes it nice and easy. So I'm going to stick that down there, okay, and then you're going to take your Copic marker. So I like to use the brush tip, and you literally just colour over the sparkler like this. Okay, and then you can see how we've just tinted the colour of those, so we've made them more kind of turquoisey to match in with our card design. I'm going to pop those in the middle of our flowers like that. Okay, and then we'll pop those off to one side. And then we've got an extra one for my bow. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to stamp the verse that we've got on this project. So again, taking a piece of crystal white pearl card, and I've got my little verse stamp here. So I'm going to ink up my stamp. Lots of light tapping all over the image. And then we're going to position that stamp down in the middle of my card. And I want firm, even pressure on the image. and then we will lift that off. And then we're going to go in with our metallic polished silver, super fine embossing powder, and we'll tap off any excess. And then if you've got any kind of fingerprints or anything, you can just go in with a paintbrush and dust that away before we heat it up. Okay, I'm going to put my pin in the top of that glue so it doesn't then dry out. Okay, so we're going to take our heat tool and we're going to heat up our image. There we go. So give that a couple of seconds to cool. And I'm going to grab in my trimmer. So I like a guillotine for trimming these down. I find it a little bit easier. So I'm going to pop that verse in. And I just tend to do it by eye. There's no kind of right or wrong way to do this. I just kind of trim it down to what I think looks right. Okay, I might take a little bit more off each side, I think, just a fraction. A little bit there and a little bit there. Okay, so then we'll take in our scrap paper again. I'm going to use my chisel tip glue pen just to go along the edge of each side. There. And you might just run a little bit off course, but don't stress, you can always just nudge it back into place if you need to. And a little bit of glue on there. Okay, so then we'll pop the lid onto here. And then next up, again, we're going to take some little foam pads just to start to layer this up. Okay, I'm just going to turn my glue gun on just while we get this stuck together, ready for the bow. Okay, so we're going to grab our card in now. I'm going to stick my little sentiment near the bottom, and then I've got my 3 flowers which I want to arrange onto here. Maybe something like this is quite nice. So I might just use, just for speed, a little glue dot. Oh, I've got some pin flare actually. We'll use this. Hopefully I've not blocked it. I haven't. Look at that. If you've watched me before on this channel, you'll know that I have a real issue with the glue gel and I never seem to get it so it comes out of the tube. There we go. Right then. So what we'll do next is we're going to pop that to one side. And then on the stamp sheet with the bouquet, you get these little holly leaves. Okay, so we're going to take those leaves and we're going to stamp those onto some heat resistant acetate. Now I know lots of you ask about heat resistant acetate and what's kind of the best way to do it. So what I would recommend is, we are finding that the heat resistant acetate is very kind of hit and miss at the moment. So what I would do is take a little bit and trial it. Try it with an anti-static bag. Sometimes that helps massively. Sometimes that makes things worse. So there's no kind of rhyme or reason to this that we've found anyway. So you're then going to take your stamps. You're going to take your clear embossing ink pad and ink up the stamp. And then you can position this down onto your acetate and press. Now with the acetate, it is a very slippy surface, so you don't want to put too much pressure on the stamp. If you put too much pressure on, what you will find is it'll slide and you'll get quite a thick image, which isn't what we want. So I've taken my metallic polished silver, super fine, sprinkled that over the top. Okay, and then we're going to heat this up. So I'll pop the lid onto that embossing powder, grab my heat tool in. Now this will turn really, really quickly when we heat it. So we're going to chase it. like this. And then you can see you've got your holly leaves embossed onto there. So what I've then done is gone in with some Diamante Sparkle glitter, and I've covered all of the back of those leaves with my Dries Clear PVA and then sprinkled them with the glitter. And then when you turn it over, this is the effect that you then get. So what you can then do, I've done 6 leaves in total, is you can take your scissors, and I would recommend just using your scissors for this, and you can just very roughly cut around the edge. Because these are on acetate, you don't have to be too careful. So if you're not great at cutting out, this is the way forward. So we can go in and we can trim around the edge these leaves like this. Okay, just keep working round. Adding this onto here. Get rid of all of this acetate that I've got left on my craft sheet. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to bring back in that base card, and what I like to do is shape the holly leaves a little bit, so just give them a little pinch down the middle like this. And you can really squish the acetate. It's quite robust and sturdy, so you don't need to worry about being too careful with it really. Okay, and then we'll take a little bit of our glue gel again, and we'll just pop this onto the back, and we'll just start to tuck these in and around. Like that. In fact, this is a slightly larger one, so I'm going to put that one in there and then pop that one in there. So this then builds a little bit more kind of depth and dimension. Okay, and we're going to create a bow to go above that sentiment. So what I think I might do, and this is why I like using glue gel as well, I'm going to shuffle things about a little bit here. I've got a little bit of excess glue there. So I'm going to take a bit of kitchen roll, just wipe that away. And that's the thing, when you use like a wet glue, like glue gel, you can always shuffle things around a bit if you need to. So what I've then done is taken some crystal white pearl paper, and I've covered it with a double-sided adhesive sheet. And then I've die cut out my bow. So let me pick these little pieces up out of my box where I've got everything prepped. Okay, so because we've covered them with the double-sided adhesive sheet, that then makes these sticky. So we can peel the back off there. Peel the back off this one. And then we're going to use these 2 little ribbon tails as well. So this is using our 3D bow die. Peel that one away there. Whoops. And peel this one away as well. And then you can take your beautiful Sparkelicious glitters and cover this. So the one that I'm using, this is Sleigh Bells, which is a nice holographic silver. So again, we're just going to cover this bow like this to one side, and then we'll continue on covering the bows. Like that. Then that can go straight back into the jar. Okay, I'm going to grab my scrap piece of paper for working on, and what we're going to do is just curl these sides of the ribbon inwards. Okay, and then we'll take, so I'm using a hot glue gun, so you can use like your PVA or something like that, but obviously it does just take a little bit longer to dry. So I'm using my glue gun, sticking that bow in the middle. Okay, and then I'll put a little bit of glue there, stick that there. Oops, always getting such a knot with hot glue. And then we'll do this the same over here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is cross these over so that we can then create a double bow. So again, little tiny blob of glue just in the middle, and then we'll just cross that there, and then you can see that's created that double bow. Can then take a little sparkler to add in the middle, so that's the extra one that we coloured earlier. Just move that out of the way. And then we'll bring our finished card back in. So we're going to stick this bow on now. So stick that down about there. And then we'll take the little ribbon tails, pop a bit of glue just on the back. Just slide those in like this. So then you can see how you can arrange those onto your project. And then to finish this off, I'm going to take some of our self-adhesive sparkles, and these are the lovely turquoise ones. And then I'll take my tweezers, and we're just going to take some of these. I'm going to put 3 in this top corner over here, like that. And then I also like to just dot them about like this. Okay, so just a couple of little jewels dotted all over like this. And there we go. And that would then be your finished project. So if I pop that up this way, there we go, you can then see that lovely card. It is all moving a little bit because the glue's still a little bit wet. And then of course, we've got the original one there too. So that is your project using the Christmas Build a Bouquet collection, but a different spin on it. So I really hope that you've enjoyed recreating this project with me today. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got lots of inspirational videos on there using our products, so please do have a little look. And I hope to see you again very soon. Now, of course, all of the products that I've used, I have listed in that little description below. So please do have a look, and you can shop everything on our website at www.chloescreativecards.co.uk. I hope to see you again very soon. Bye.